It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue. Get over to Joe's today. Do yourself right with a little indoor kart racing. It is the first show of 2020. I went back and did some numbers, and me and counting is always a little bit suspect, but how many local dirt track interviews do you think that we did in 2000 aired in 2019?
Just dirt track, or are we going to count like Tracy Weber's?
Local dirt racing, local everything. Whether it be drivers, promoters, owners, series directors, yada yada.
71.
88. The goal for 2020 is to be over 100 interviews.
Well, we probably did 100.
I think that I went back, and the ones that I logged were like ones that we had written on our logs of, talk to so-and-so, talk to so-and-so. Silver Dollar Nationals, I think I only counted that once, even though, that was basically the entire show. We recapped it in turn 1, we played interviews in turn 2, we talked about it in turn 3, and I think we might have previewed the race to come for like 2 seconds in turn 4.
Well, normally we try to play 2 interviews a show.
Yeah.
And some shows there were 3, but at 2 interviews a show, we'd end up with 104 for the year. So 88 to me for the local stuff seems just a tad high, but not too bad. So,
well,
I know there were some weeks we had 3 interviews. So
yeah, and like we've done recently in December, we do 3, maybe even 4, because we really don't have NASCAR to talk about. Yeah. So it was, and there was only a couple of shows. We would do like the Homestead Party one. I think we pretty much. Or the Homestead race, we pretty much focused all on NASCAR and conversation about our thoughts on to come and that kind of stuff. But
we had Kyle and Martin on.
Right.
We're on first name basis with them now.
Yeah. My girlfriend thinks she's on first name basis with Martin Truex. So after he talked to her, I still haven't heard the end of that. But anyways, 88, good number. I was pretty happy with that. So, like I said, I want to break 100 this year, and I know we did more interviews than that. I think we probably did around 95 to 100 interviews. Some of them we couldn't use, some of them we never got around to, so we re-recorded 3 or 4 months later just for them to be a little bit more timely. But if any interviews you guys want, we're always open. I know Nick Dice, who's going to come on the show next weekend, reached out to me and said, "Hey man, I'm in Omaha. Can I swing by?" Absolutely. Let's make time for you. Come on the show. The promoter and the director for Tuxedo Raceway. And so, you want to come on the show? Message us. Send a message to Dirk. Send a message to me on Facebook. We'd love to get you on.
Yeah, it just has to be racing related. Can't talk about football.
Yeah.
Not going to talk about politics. Very much.
As little as possible. Sometimes it bleeds into it. And I want to talk about the politics of racing just a little bit, because we have had our first big politics in racing kind of explode
I know right
in
where
a
you're
long
going.
time. Right. Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson took some tumbles down in New Zealand late last week. They're both down there doing a little bit of off regular season racing. And Kyle's was pretty violent. He rolled, probably 5 or 6 times, door over door?
Yeah, barrel rolled. Yeah, sideways, not end over end. But,
but Christopher Bell's wreck wasn't as violent as Kyle Larson's was, yet Christopher Bell has opted to walk away from the remainder of his obligation for racing down there, as advised by his NASCAR management team. And I wanted to point that phrase out, NASCAR management team, for one big reason. I think you know why.
Yeah, because it's not NASCAR.
Right.
Yeah.
NASCAR does not tell these drivers what to do.
What to do, where to race, how to race, who to race for. They can race any series, anytime that they want to. NASCAR does not care.
I think NASCAR would actually encourage it as long as they can guarantee the safety of the drivers. It's good for NASCAR to have their drivers out doing other things, because it's not Christopher Bell. It's NASCAR driver Christopher Bell. Yeah. It's getting NASCAR's name back out there as much as possible.
But, in all honesty, NASCAR doesn't care if the guy shows up on Sunday for the most part. That's between him and the car owner.
Right.
They just want the cars there. And obviously, it's better for them if the top name talent's there. But, I mean, nobody has to look any further than I-80 Speedway when Carl Edwards got his thumb busted up. Didn't roll over or anything, got the steering wheel thumb deal. And that kind of started all this no more moonlighting thing. I mean, I talked to Brad Keselowski specifically, and he said, only thing I can drive is something I own or Roger owns. That's why he could drive his trucks once in a while, and once in a while he drives an Xfinity car. He doesn't dabble anywhere else in anything else.
You think about the business of the sport, I 100% agree with Roger Penske saying, listen, Brad, we appreciate you wanting to go race somewhere else, but I need you in something that I have control over the way it's built. I don't want to put you into some rinky-dink, unsafe piece of equipment and then come to find out, you go and wreck this thing and you've got a broken leg, or worse, you end up dead because this isn't something that I had a hand or I had a say in the way it was built. I 100% agree with that. There is a lot of money tied up into these guys. And if you want a prime example, look at Tony Stewart. He was out racing dune buggies 3 weeks before Daytona 500, breaks his leg, ends up missing what he missed, the first 10, 11 races of the season?
Oh, I don't remember him breaking his leg in the dune buggy. I do remember him
or was his
breaking
back?
his back.
It was his back, yeah. And so he spent a substantial amount of time outside of that number 14 car, and I really would like to know what that ended up costing Stewart-Haas Racing, because I guarantee you, Mobil 1 said, we're not paying Tony Stewart talent money to sit down in that car when Tony Stewart's not sitting down in that car. We will happily pay you a fee to be on the side of that car, but we're not paying Tony Stewart fee.
Well, yeah, and so it cost them some sponsorship dollars, and it also cost them to pay somebody else to drive the car.
Absolutely. Same thing with Kyle Busch. Now, Kyle's was a little bit different, where Kyle got in a wreck in a smaller series, in the Xfinity Series, while racing at Daytona, so it's a little bit of a different deal, but Joe Gibbs Racing still had to inevitably pay the penalty, whatever penalty that be.
I thought he got hurt in a cup race.
No, it was in the Xfinity Series race at the very end.
I mean, it was still in the NASCAR deal owned by Joe Gibbs, et cetera, et cetera. So that was, there's no way to really get around that. And I doubt there was a whole lot of compensation there that got lost, except for having to hire a driver to drive the cars at the races that he missed.
Yeah, I didn't put that I didn't mean like they had to pay a certain penalty. I'm saying like they ended up paying for it because they didn't make the revenue off of, or the sponsorship dollars off of what Kyle did, or the chances. I mean, how many races could he have won in those first 10? You saw how many races he won in the next 16.
Yeah, well, I doubt there was any repercussions from sponsors.
Well, I'm going back and saying the same thing with they're not going to pay the sponsorship level for the replacement driver for Kyle Busch like they did with Tony Stewart. And that's all assumption. I mean, if I'm Mobil 1 or I'm M&M's, I'm saying that's great. We hope Kyle's okay, but we're definitely not paying that bill for Kyle Busch to be behind the wheel because that's who we pay for.
Yeah, well, in the Stewart incident, I see it because it was not a NASCAR race. In the Kyle Busch incident, I don't see it because that was a NASCAR race.
But I don't think that makes a difference.
Yeah, I do.
If I'm M&M's, it doesn't matter where he got wrecked or how he got hurt. He's still not behind the wheel of that 18 car, and I want Kyle Busch behind the wheel of that 18 car.
Well, I'd have to go back and check films, but probably a pretty good bet that Mars was on the side of the car that he wrecked in.
No, he wasn't. It was a Monster number 54.
Oh, it was a Monster car?
He was, because he was racing his Xfinity Series operation, and he was in the 54 car.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have an Xfinity Series operation anymore. That's all Joe Gibbs.
Oh, was it Joe
now.
Gibbs Racing?
He's just got the trucks.
That's
right.
Anyways, but it coming back to another thing, you don't think that there's these kinds of clauses in contracts? Like, I mean, the LA Lakers wouldn't want LeBron James running around and playing basketball at a pickup game and running the risk of him spraining his ACL or something, because
that's totally different.
Their entire season,
but there's no sponsorship on LeBron's back. So we're in a different deal there.
But there's a lot of revenue available. There's playoff bonuses. There's championships available.
But in the Xfinity wreck, no, I don't think there's going to be a repercussion. In a dune buggy deal that's really off the beaten path, yeah, there's going to be a sponsor repercussion on that one. Tony Stewart broke his leg in another incident in a sprint car and missed several weeks, and I'm sure there was repercussions from that. And
the only reason why Tony Stewart's still, at that time, while he was still active in the Cup Series, was still racing other things, was because he's the owner of the team.
Right, yeah.
He had the ability
He's got his own
to decide,
rules.
right.
And that's why everybody's thinking that, he needs to sign Christopher Bell and stuff like that, because Ganassi's fine, evidently, with Kyle Larson racing, stuff like that, the sprint cars and everything that he's been doing in the offseason and even during the season.
Yeah.
Because he comes and runs Knoxville. Ganassi's owner of Indy cars, which are inherently more dangerous than any type of a Cup car.
Yeah, so this isn't a NASCAR deal, and I'm going to go back and say this again. I think the Lakers would tell LeBron James he needs to be careful with what he does, just the way that Joe Gibbs Racing told Carl Edwards to do the same thing. They want Carl in that car because they've got an opportunity with Carl behind that wheel to win a championship, and that's their most important thing.
Joe Gibbs Racing didn't care because he was driving for Jack Roush at that time.
But Joe Gibbs Racing is the same deal, right? Those guys, I don't believe those guys are able to go and...
I don't see him go race anywhere else, and like I said, when all this kind of started, all those guys were all racing. Tony Stewart had the Prelude to the Dream.
Yeah.
Before he bought Eldora, he sponsored that late model race up there, and you had Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch. Ryan Newman was always in it.
Jimmy Johnson would go and race.
Jeff Gordon. They were all up there running those late models, you know, and there was no 6 cylinders or crate motors, man. These were, wide open late models, and they were out there hammering it.
And these guys, they didn't have a lot of experience behind the wheel of a late model to know how to run the cushion, how to handle a car.
Yeah, handling a car cushion's a little bit different on a late model than a sprint car, but most of those guys, not all of them, most of them had some type of open wheel experience. I mean, that's where Gordon started. That's where Ryan Newman started. That's Jimmy Johnson. No, he'd started on motorcycles, though. But, Jimmy Johnson and the Busch brothers, they were always just asphalt driving guys. So, but the money was at that point still on the way up.
Yeah.
Everything was tied to those guys in a big way. Some of that's changed as far as what the guys get, but, there's probably more of it in contracts. And like I said, right now, the only owner that I know that's, a big owner in the sport, Ganassi, who's got a lot of stuff going on, he's letting them drive. They want to go drive something, they can. But NASCAR is not telling anybody not to do this.
Absolutely. And after Christopher Bell did confirm in a statement, after crashing on Boxing Day, I decided it was best for me to skip the rest of the New Zealand tour in preparation for the 2020 Chili Bowl in the NASCAR or in the Cup Series season. So he is still going to be defending his title at the Chili Bowl, that was one hell of a finish last year with that last lap, last corner pass on Kyle Larson. It'll be fun to see what those two are able to do again this year in the Chili Bowl, coming up in just a couple of weeks. But so it's interesting. I would be interested to find out that conversation between him and his NASCAR management team, because if I'm his NASCAR management team and it's my duty to make sure he is at Daytona for the season opener and he is at every one of those races, I'm not a big fan of him racing the Chili Bowl either.
Yeah.
That's because I'm looking at it from a very selfish standpoint. I got to have him ready for the NASCAR season. I can't have him doing this other stuff. But, there's probably some other sponsor obligations that he already has in place that comes as a part of his NASCAR deal, is that, you go race the Chili Bowl. And because he's racing the Chili Bowl, he's able to bring a couple other sponsors to the table for the NASCAR deal. Who knows?
Well, yeah, and he also may have had a 2 or 3 year commitment with somebody for the Chili Bowl,
right? Yep.
Which might have, just a stupidity buyout. It might be $100,000 commitment for 3 years with $1 million buyout or something like that. Well, is Gibbs going to pay the $1 million for him not to race it? Probably not. So he's probably going to let him go do it. So there's so many what ifs to the situation, but the people that are coming on Facebook and hammering NASCAR for this, you're heading down the wrong path, folks.
Once again, you're just blaming the person that is the biggest person in the room, and you're not paying attention to where the responsibility actually lies.
Yeah, NASCAR's not calling the shots on this deal. NASCAR has no say-so whether he goes out. He does not have a contract with NASCAR in any way, shape, or form.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Turns 2 and 3 is going to be all about 2020 schedules. Joe Kosiski is going to join us to talk the I-80 Speedway tentative 2020 schedule, and then he'll talk to us about the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series schedule, the West schedule as far as it's been released, a tentative schedule for 2020 with possibility of some changes still to come because we're early in the season. That's going to be turns 2 and 3. We're going to come back in turn number 4, talk about the Chili Bowl and those local guys that are going to be around to race in the Chili Bowl. We'll be back on the front stretch.
Red Oak Fabrication is excited to announce they're expanding their powder coating business, which means quicker turnaround times at the same great price. Get all the benefits of a powder coated chassis for just $275 for a bare frame. Ask Jordan about special pricing for large and small projects today. Email Jordan F at redoakfabrication.com. Located at the intersection of Highway 34 and 48 in Red Oak, Iowa, or at redoakfabrication.com. A beautiful and durable durable service is just down the road.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, rolling into turn number 2, and it's time to have our annual conversation as we get set for the 2020 race schedule for I-80 Speedway. Joe Kosiski, co-owner and promoter for I-80 Speedway, sitting in the studio with us. Joe, it's always great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, it's important to mention, while the 2020 schedule is out, tentative, subject to change. As always, you guys have a few more tricks up your sleeve and things that you may be announcing. And, of course, just due to circumstances, I don't know, maybe Kansas City floats away and USAC has to suspend their race because Lakeside Speedway is Lake Center Speedway. But, you know, things always change as the season goes on, but this is kind of a good idea for people to get their schedules ready to go. You guys were hard at work in the offseason, as is expected.
Well, we worked real hard, got things I think that's looking like a great schedule myself. And as you say, please keep in mind it says tentative at the top because you never know what else may come up or may have to be changed. And a lot of it's to do with weather.
I was going to say that tentative doesn't even mention the word weather in there.
Yes.
As could be expected, one of the biggest announcements in the recent weeks is that the World of Outlaw sprint cars are going to be making their return. They're coming back to I-80 Speedway. I believe they've missed out on Nebraska for 2 years in a row now. They've been gone from I-80.
It's been 3 years.
Has it been 3?
I think it's been 3.
Too long.
Yeah,
too long.
too
They're now
long.
going to hit the big, fast speedway of I-80 Speedway. That's a big win for you guys. I know you've been working hard to get them back into Nebraska.
Yes, we've been working real hard. We got them back. You know, we've got some really good dates on our schedule. If you notice, the Silver Dollar Nationals has went to 4 days long instead of 3 days now. So that's something that's a little bit different. We've got the wingless sprint cars back from USAC, which is the weekend before Knoxville. Last year they had about, I remember right, they had 42 cars at Knoxville for the wingless USAC show, and it's a 2-day show this year. I think it pays $20,000 up there, and we're on the Thursday night. They put us on the Thursday night going up to there. So last year we was with Lakeside, and that's why it got rained out. Lakeside canceled, and they didn't want to come all the way out west for just one show, so they canceled it on us. This year we're with Knoxville. Knoxville's never flooded. I don't think there's a creek by them, so that's going to help us out for part of it to be able to make it happen as long as the rest of the weather holds up.
Well, let's start off with the very beginning. Also, brand new to the state of Nebraska is going to be the Nebraska Dirt Crown Tour that a couple of local guys have put together, and I-80 is going to, I believe you guys are kicking off the entire series?
Nope. There's 4 days. It kicks off at US 30. It comes to us on Friday night, the second night of it. It goes to Beatrice on Saturday night, and then goes out to Deschler, Nebraska on Sunday night.
So the 27th is the kickoff to the season, the Nebraska Dirt Crown, featuring IMCA-sanctioned modifieds, sport mods, and stock cars. That's going to be a great touring series. Really excited to see what they're able to do with
These guys are putting together some pretty big money for them 3 classes. I mean, it's going to be a neat deal.
Friday, April 3rd is going to be the typical kickoff to the season. It'll be your spring meltdown, and it will be the kickoff to the Malvern Bank Super Late Model West Series, which more to come on that in the coming weeks. The Nebraska 360 Sprint Cars will join you along with the Hobby Stocks. That was the very first race I got to enjoy at a dirt track, and I've told this story about 100 times on this show. It's always worth telling again. I remember coming down the entry to turn 3, the back gate there, and walking into the infield and seeing everything that was going on. I just happened to run into you, and you just, with that big bare hand, you grabbed me and pulled me in close because there's engines running, and you said, "You keep your head on a swivel, you're going to end up as a bug."
Yeah, the sprint cars were pushing on the backstretch there to start. I remember that day because you got to pay attention, and a lot of people that aren't around sprint cars don't realize it. They get out there and they thinking like they got clutches and they got starters, and they don't have to worry about it, and here come one of them come flying by them.
So the spring meltdown, Friday, April 3rd and 4th, and then we come back the next weekend, Friday, April 10th, and then Saturday the 11th, you've got the Bug Eater Bash. Now, Friday is going to feature modifieds, topless brag and right late models, sport mods, stock cars, and compacts. I'm betting that topless isn't the kind of topless that I would prefer. It's a different type of topless.
Well, it's a type of topless that's going to be a little different. We're actually starting a 4-race series for the brag and rights late models. They're going to have a special point fund for the 4 nights. They're going to be running a little different purse. We had to have something to go with our back to the World Outlaws. We had to have a class to go with them. So we're going to run the bragging rights topless late models with the World Outlaws, with the USAC wingless cars, and they're going to run on the Thursday night of the Go 50 during the Silver Dollar Nationals.
Awesome. Second night of the Bug Eater Bash. It's one of 2 nights that the Sprint Series in Nebraska, the Race Saver 305s, will make their appearance at I-80 Speedway. The modifieds, bragging right late models, sport mods, and stock cars. That's going to be a full bill.
Yep, that'll be a great one. It was good last year.
Yeah, and then we get to the first NASCAR Weekly Points night. NASCAR has been a huge supporter of I-80 Speedway. I think it's important to let a lot of drivers and fans know NASCAR lets you set your own rules package, and you set your rules package a lot like IMCA because it makes it a lot easier for these drivers that are IMCA sanctioned drivers to be able to come and race one-off races at I-80.
On the classes that are basically the same, we do. Our bragging rights late models and our super late models are not on an IMCA package. Our modifieds, our sport mods, our sport compacts, our hobby stocks, and our stock cars are all pretty well the same as IMCA. Our stock cars, we still have some of the old Pro-Ams still running with them, so we still got a couple of the rules that go in there to be able to allow the Pro-Ams to race with them.
Now, with the super late models, do they have a spot in there for the IMCA cars with their spec motors to compete?
The IMCA cars with their spec motors, when the IMCA spec motor cars that race on the IMCA late models, they take the 4 950 restrictors out, and they can run with our super late models, and they won a number of races last year running just that way. So, yes, it's the motor can compete. There's not a problem. They have to put 4 restrictors in when they go back to racing IMCA.
4 weeks in a row for the NASCAR Weekly Points classes. 7 classes will compete at I-80 Speedway for points championships. Most nights, you're going to have 1, maybe 2 classes that won't be attending. It'll be a 6 classes, maybe a 5-class night. So Friday, April 24th, then May 1st, 8th, and 15th, all NASCAR points nights. And then we come to, anybody ever realize that this is my favorite race? Has anybody ever heard that?
I've heard that before.
Has anybody ever pointed that out? This is my favorite race. The Charlie Clark Memorial featuring the modifieds, sport mod, stock cars, and then this is the second of 2 appearances for the Race Saver Sprint Series of Nebraska, the SSN Series. Any changes that you're working on that you could announce for the Charlie Clark?
We've got a little bit of changes for the Charlie Clark. We're changing the pay up a little bit. We're going to add more so the guys on back get a little bit better pay and not so much on the front side of the 2 races. It's still going to be 2 races, but we're not going to necessarily invert the whole everybody that's left racing. We've done that in the past, and we're working on that right now. That I don't know exactly what we're going to do. We may just flip a coin. So if somebody wants to hold back to start on the front of the second race and you flip a coin and they don't get to, or we're going to draw a card. We haven't decided what we're going to do, but we always like to keep that race exciting.
I think Ryan Jenkins kind of brought attention to this, that he loves the format, but there is definitely a way to manipulate it a little bit, especially in that first 22 laps, that if you aren't passing the cars that you should be and making your way through the field in order to get up to the front, you can just hang back and start on the front row.
Well, but that was kind of a reason we're taking a little bit of the pay off the top to help get it paid into the middle a little better. Yeah. And that way the guys will want to race no matter where they're at in the field.
And you also got to be careful at that point not to get lapped.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you get lapped, they're off the track.
The last 4 cars in the race are off the field, yes.
So that's the Charlie Clark Memorial, Sunday, May 24th, and then we come back for the NASCAR Weekly Racing on Friday, May 29th. And then the NOS Energy World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series featuring the unsanctioned topless bragging right late models. That's going to be a Wednesday night show, June 3rd. A Wednesday night show. So you've got 2 classes on that, because I think the biggest thing is let's put on a good show, but let's get everybody out of there at a decent time.
Well, we feel a Wednesday night World Outlaw Sprint show should draw more cars. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that sounds a little backwards that, Wednesday nights people want to, but Knoxville's not racing, so we're not trying to compete against a track that's running cars that night. There's no Jackson, Minnesota's not racing on Friday. Knoxville's not racing on Saturday, so the cars can come. I'm thinking we're going to have 32, maybe 35 cars. Well, by the time they run their time trials, their heat races, their qualifiers, and their feature, and if we end up with approximately, I'm going to guess 25 topless bragging rights late models, you got 2 to 3 heat races and a good feature there.
And it also let any of the local guys that are running anywhere in any other series or any type of points, if they've got the 410 hanging around, which I know a few of them do, that they can come.
Cody Ledger, I know, has said they're going to run a 410. They're going to be there for it. So that's one of the guys you're speaking of that usually will run a 360 in the Nebraska 360s.
So that's Wednesday, June 3rd, the NOS Energy World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series. Again, along with the unsanctioned topless Brag and Right late model. Should be a quick night that night. Brag and Right late model guys, they can keep their stuff together pretty easily. I don't think we're going to see a caution-filled night. And obviously, we know what the World of Outlaw guys can do. Usually a green-white checkered race, but they're one of the few classes that I'm actually excited to see a green-white checkered race because it always comes down to the last couple of laps with the World of Outlaws at I-80 Speedway. Danny Lasowski beating Donnie Schatz.
Yeah. On the last lap.
Great racing there, so I'm really excited about that. 2 days later, you're back at it for the NASCAR Weekly Racing. All classes except hobby stocks are off that night. And then we come back a week later for the I-80 Speedway the I-80 Dirt Classic featuring the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series, and then the NASCAR sanctioned classes, sport mods there. So the Dirt Classic adding the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series.
Yes.
2 weeks of the NASCAR points nights, and then Saturday, June 27th, the Ultimate Demo Derby makes its return. This will be the third?
This will be year 3.
Yeah, and you've had a great experience in this. I sit there week after week looking at that front stretch, and I think, how the heck do they run a Demo Derby on that front stretch? But you do, and the stands are packed. It's a great night.
And I'll tell you what, I have so many people compliment it that they come and they just have a great time. Just a great time at that demo.
What is it to get in? I think last year it was like $5.
It was $7 for adults and $5 for kids.
That's nothing. I mean, you can't do anything around Omaha for that little money. So that's the Ultimate Demo Derby on Saturday the 27th. That's June 27th. We come back Friday, July 3rd, just before the 4th of July. I did that math in my head. That's a day before the 4th of July. Midwest Madness Tour going to make its return to I-80 Speedway. Second year that tour is in action, featuring IMCA-sanctioned modifieds, sport mods, stock cars, and then you're going to do NASCAR-sanctioned super late models.
Yes,
and
just the super late models will be NASCAR-sanctioned. Everything else will be IMCA-sanctioned.
And that is not a Malvern Bank points night.
That is not a Malvern Bank.
Just the super late models that compete at a weekly basis at NASCAR.
You noticed how Dan said he'd done math in his head? That was from the 3rd to the 4th. He said it was one day. He could figure out it was the day before.
I did that in my head.
He done that very well, didn't he?
Very limited.
Yeah.
Everybody in this room knows what they're dealing with when they get me and my math problems. Thursday, July 9th, then it is the USAC wingless sprint cars and the unsanctioned topless Brag and Right late models again. USAC guys, I was in complete awe the last time I watched them race at I-80 Speedway because, you always use those catchwords with these guys are racing on the edge and they're pushing it to the limit. You can truly see how out of control these cars are every single lap. And I lost my breath several times watching how deep into the corner these guys would go before they would turn the car. It is just nuts to watch these guys race at I-80 Speedway.
When you put them on a big track like we've got, it's the ultimate. You know, I try to get them back every year. We missed them for a year there, and then we got them on the schedule last year, but it rained out. Or we didn't rain out. It flooded out in Kansas City.
And just the rain last year was just insane. We're going to talk to Nick Dice about it next weekend at Tuxedo Park Raceway. I think I got it right. Tuxedo Park Raceway. He was talking about how they had about 14 races.
It's Tuxedo Raceway Park, isn't it?
Tuxedo Park Raceway. I made a
Really? It's Park first? Okay.
Yeah. I got that wrong about 8 times during that interview.
Listen to Dan too much.
Yeah. 2 straight weeks of NASCAR points nights. That's going to be Friday, July 10th, and then Friday, July 17th. Before we get to the big race, let's take a quick break. We'll come back in turn number 3. We'll finish the last half of the schedule. We'll talk about maybe some of the improvements that you want to talk about that's coming to I-80 Speedway in 2020. Joe Kosiski, co-owner and promoter for I-80 Speedway, joining us on the show. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the front stretch.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole of the front stretch and the home of MAV TV, featuring action from the Lucas Oil Late Model Series.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Located on Mid-America Drive in Council Bluffs.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Rolling into turn number 3, continuing our conversation with Joe Kosiski of I-80 Speedway. They announced their 2020 schedule, tentative 2020 schedule. I always sound like Barbara Walters when I say that now. Maybe I just sound like it in my head. But keep in mind that, once again, it's a tentative schedule. Could be some adjustments as the season goes on. And always like and follow the I-80 Speedway Facebook page. I know you guys have your awards banquet coming up in a couple of weeks. Is that sold out? I know that gets usually pretty close to selling out.
The awards banquet, as of right now, is not even really close to being sold out. Usually when it starts selling, the last 7 days that you have tickets, and we're not on the last 7 days yet. So
drivers wait till the last minute.
Yeah, there isn't a driver, especially during the holidays, that's worried about getting their tickets bought like they're supposed to. But we've sold quite a few tickets. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 35% sold out, about a third.
It's just not time for it to really be sold out quite yet.
Right.
If you want to enjoy that night, it is a fun night. And obviously, it's great in the middle of the off-season to be able to hang out with some of the competitors and share stories and watch the awards. But that Eddie's Catering, boy, they knock it out of the park every year with that food. Absolutely phenomenal. I-80Speedway.com for more tickets and information. We dropped off right before the big 10th anniversary of the Silver Dollar Nationals. You guys have not only added more money to the purse and added more opportunity for the winner to take home even more cash, but now you've made it a 4-day event rather than just a 3-day event.
But to make everything clear, we used to run the Malvern Bank Super Late Models on the Thursday night show with the Lucas Oil cars for the Malvern Bank Go 50. And this year we've went to Wednesday night. We're going to put the Malvern Bank Super Late Models back to that East and West series we talked about. It'll be a day that both of them's going to collide there. And with all that going on, it would have made my pits a little too full and a little bit too much for the race fan. So we decided to go this way, and then we're going to put the Don Moore Tribute stock car race to go with them guys on Wednesday night. And we thought that would be a great place to put them stock cars and get them to be part of our Silver Dollar Nationals. That unsanctioned modifieds will not be running a complete show. They'll be running dual heat races on Wednesday. And then their feature only. We'll run their heats and their B on Wednesday, and their feature will be on Thursday with the Go 50 and the Bragging Rights, topless Bragging Rights cars.
Sounds good. All right, and then the Thursday the 23rd, the Malvern Bank Go 50. This was a race that kind of happenstance made it the Thursday of the Silver Dollar Nationals because, as we know, Mother Nature never likes to cooperate. The Lucas Oil guys kept coming to you and say, Joe, we want to race here a second time. Joe, we want to race here a second time. You tried to get them to race in May. Mother Nature wouldn't cooperate, so you just said, okay, we'll reschedule you guys for the Thursday of the Silver Dollar Nationals. And that turned out to be an amazing race. What I think Davenport beat Bloomquist by
6 inches.
It wasn't even 6 inches.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
the closest race in history of Lucas Oil racing.
And so then you did it again last year in 2019. Now it's coming back in 2020. It will kick off it'll help as the opening couple of days of the Silver Dollar Nationals. The Lucas Oil late models will race the Malvern Bank Go 50. That's a 50-lap feature. A little bit of a special way that you qualify for that too.
Well, on this race here, the reason that we also done that is because a lot of our guys that's been racing the Malvern Bank Super Late Models and having to race on the same day says, we really can't run both classes. We'd like to put ourselves in a little better position for the Silver Dollar, and I want to give them that opportunity. So by moving that other race back, they can get their cars changed over. They can focus on one thing, and that's try to make the Go 50 and get their stuff ready for the Silver Dollar and get their tires ready and get everything ready so they know how the changes are going to work for them.
For one of these local guys that knows the track fairly well to get a top 2 or top 3 in that Silver Dollar, win it. I mean, a win would make their career for most of these guys.
A win would make the career for any of our local guys to win that race. But, for them to get into the race, I mean, we watched last year Billy Layton run, I think, about 10th spot, 9th spot
he was right
a
in
long
there.
time. I mean, he ran a great race going on. So it shows our guys can compete with it. But I want to give them the opportunity to get as much time as they can to get into that race. So that's why we took that.
We've had some really good locals that have put up some really good efforts that you think maybe in this circumstance, maybe if they'd had a little more time to prep for the race, they could have really put up a top 5 and really got up into that big money and really kind of hung their hat on something big, because that would be a big win for a lot of people. And honestly, it's a big win for a lot of the guys on the Lucas Oil Late Model Series.
Yes, it is. It's a big win for them guys.
So
also.
Thursday, the 23rd of July, Malvern Bank Go 50 featuring the Lucas Oil Late Model Series and unsanctioned modifieds with the Brag and Right late models, topless Brag and Right late models. Is this going to be the features for what the double heats qualify for on the
modifieds? The modifieds will be the feature only. We're not going to run the B, just the A feature will come to Thursday night to run.
Then the Friday, the Imperial Tile Silver Dollar Nationals, Lucas Oil Late Model qualifying for Saturday night along with the USMTS KC's Touring Series. They'll be on Friday night, and then again on Saturday night we'll come back even bigger to win. $53,000 still for finishing number one in the race, but purse money available for leading laps now.
Purse money for leading laps, there will be this year for our 10th anniversary, we added $10,000 in lap money, and we made the race go to 101 laps instead of 80 laps.
Now, because you're you and you like to do weird things like 101 laps, why did you like to do a weird thing like 101 laps?
Okay, I'll give you that explanation. Because every time the lap counter turns to zero, there will be $1,000 given. At lap 1, which will be lap 100, then will be left. That'll pay $1,000. Then lap 90 will pay $1,000. Lap 80. Lap 10 will be the last lap money.
Okay.
Lap 0 will still only pay $53,000.
Yeah.
But to go along with that $10,000 that we've done for the special for our 10th year, me and Steve have added another $53,000. You guys like that number, right? $53,000.
You've got a connection to it.
Yeah. We added another $53,000 into the purse for that race. And the way we've done it is there's actually 54 cars that make money besides the $100 show-up money. Mm-hmm. And that goes from 2nd to 30th. I believe it is, or 32nd is in the feature race. And then there's another 20 spots in the non-qualifiers race. So we added $1,000 to each spot of the 54, except for first place. So that way it stayed at $53,000 to win. We added $53,000 to the purse. Last place in the non-qualifiers race is going to pay $1,400.
That's a nice chunk of change.
Yes.
That's what you got when you've got a racer making the purse as opposed to, the standard promoter.
Well, we want to see everybody that comes be able to leave with some money in their pocket. I mean, to make the feature that weekend, to make that silver dollar race is going to pay $3,000 just to make the race.
Great race in 2019. I was really excited because I get to be one of the contributors to the I-80 Facebook page, and you've heard me complain about this. The negativity that comes into the page is incredibly frustrating, and no matter how good of a show you seem to put on, there's always somebody out there that's got some sort of a gripe about, I don't know, they got hit with a piece of mud when they were standing off turn 1, and even though it says watch for flying debris, it's your fault that they got hit with whatever it be. It gets really frustrating, and literally I walked over after the show was over with my cell phone, and there were 4 or 5 messages of when do tickets go on sale for the 2020 Silver Dollar Nationals. So, Joe, we're into 2020. When do ticket sales go on?
We told them last year that we was making our top 6 rows into reserve seats on our bleacher sides, and they're still making that up. And we've got another little surprise that we've been sitting here, you know about it. We've been doing a little remodeling of our booths and everything that we got at the top of the grandstands, and we're going to have 4 suites up there this year that's going to be able to be rented. And I want to have them ready so everybody has the opportunity when I put them up for rent that they can get them for the full season. And if not, they may want to bring 12 people up and sit in their own air conditioned, and there's a bathroom up there and I know everything.
And we all know that March and April can be cold, and June and July, a little bit of August can be ungodly hot, and then back to October can be cold. It's nice to have these suites available to where you can have that comfortable environment to still be able to enjoy the races.
Yep.
So the Silver Dollar Nationals tickets, they're going to go on sale, but you got to get some of the back-end details.
We're hoping that we have them on sale within about the 10th to the 15th of January is what I'm hoping.
So that's the Silver Dollar Nationals. Once again, 10th anniversary. Man, what a great thing you guys have built up. I mean, that is truly becoming one of those crown jewels and something that is a sense of pride for a lot of people in this area. And I know there's a lot of employees at I-80 that love the fact that they don't work on that weekend. Which makes it a little bit more difficult for you because you're on the phone with me going, Dan, I need workers. We got people here. I need workers. And everybody who works here regularly doesn't want to work that weekend.
And that's really true because a lot of them are just so happy to have the weekend off, and the campgrounds is full.
Yep.
And, you and Lisa and a couple of you have started this
the
cornhole tournament.
That's so fun.
And them corn boards are full there for a couple hours, and everybody having a good – I mean, it has just turned into – the Friday night party after the races. I mean, so many things that goes on. Yes.
And your open invitation to join us on Sunday the 26th on the radio show live to talk about the races is always opened. So
if you meet me in my camper and I'm getting up out of bed, we can be live. But if you don't meet me there, I probably won't be live, Dan, because by that time I'm ready to sleep.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
You go wake that bear.
Yeah.
Usually I'll lean over to Lisa about Saturday afternoon. I'm like, you got to get your dad into his RV and get him some rest. And she's like, I know. He's about fried, isn't he? And anyway, so that's the Silver Dollar Nationals. Then we come back just a week later, less than a week later, for the Bobby Parker Memorial. It's an annual sprint car race that is supported by the Nebraska 360 Sprint Cars. Special race for Dennis Parker, who's the president of the Nebraska 360s, because Bobby obviously is dad, and that's a memorial race for him. That's also going to come along with the NASCAR sanctioned classes, everybody except for the super late models and the modifieds. And that'll be, once again, the Barbie Parker Memorial, Friday the 31st. I want to come back. I didn't ask you this question because I forgot all about it, but the Charlie Clark Memorial on Sunday the 24th, are you guys going to do the same trophies for that you did for 2019? I know you hate always saying this. Those were incredibly rare trophies. So to be able to get them back, I don't blame you, but man alive, were those some badass trophies.
If I can get them back, they will be back.
Okay. And to give anybody a little bit of an insight, they are the top of a barrel of Jack Daniels that were then milled with the races feature and the Cookies barbecue sauce sponsorship and then the winner. And I mean, it was this nice, beautifully finished, absolutely gorgeous trophy. It absolutely broke my heart because that was one of the few races I got to work in the pits last year. And I was sitting in the infield in the pit shack, and I'm looking at this trophy, and I'm like, every driver has got to see this. Because a lot of the drivers are going for the pay and the fact to stand in victory lane. But this trophy was something that every one of them, I knew they would push a little bit harder. So I got to make a lap, and I showed every single team that trophy. And I bet 90% of them said, just stick it right down there. We'll we don't have to worry about collecting it later. They wanted that trophy right off the bat. And then as soon as I got done, I put the trophy away. You radioed me and said, you better tell all the drivers the rain's coming. We need to get everybody ready to get out of here. And so then we had to reschedule the thing, but just absolutely gorgeous trophies. It was a heartbreaker that we didn't get to see those in victory lane, but what a cool trophy. And that's something else that you and Lisa and everybody at I-80 really focuses on is the specials pay a little bit more. They've got a little bit different format, but the trophies are a little bit special also.
You got to try to keep everything special. That's what keeps people talking about it. It's what makes them want to come back. Being treated special anywhere or any place you go is what the people want.
Well, I mean, you go to Martinsville, all you ever hear about is winning that grandfather clock.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's what everybody talks about. When they run the Xfinities or the trucks or whatever at Nashville, everybody wanted that guitar, except Kyle Busch. He went and broke his. But, those special trophies are special to those guys.
Yep, very much so.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to, Dirk, what you were just saying, that a lot of the things that I-80 does is because there are former racers in control. I mean, you've got trophies up the wazoo from just winning everywhere here and there, but some of those may go over into a closet somewhere. They may be in a storage shed. They may have been given away to some little kid, but a trophy like the I-80 Dirt Classic Trophy or the Charlie Clark Memorial Trophy, you're not giving that away.
Nope.
That's going up in the shop.
Not one of them special ones like that. You don't give them away. You're
so
right.
Back on track. We're into August. We're going to do a NASCAR Weekly Points Night on the 7th, and then as you guys traditionally do, you take the 14th off. I like this because a lot of fans and drivers and just people in the sport like to go over to Knoxville for the 410 Nationals. So you guys offer that as a week off. That's also a good opportunity to take a break because it's usually hot. The track could use a break, maybe use a little bit of reworking.
How about all the people?
Right.
All the employees.
It's a great opportunity to give a break and let everybody kind of get out and about. And then you come back on Friday the 21st for another NASCAR Weekly Racing Night. And then Friday the 28th, it's the annual Speedy Bill Smith Memorial featuring the Nebraska 360s again, modified sport mod stock cars, brag and right late models, and compacts. That's going to be a busy night.
It'll be a real busy night, but we owe that to Speedy Bill. I mean, Speedway Motors does a lot with I-80 Speedway. We're basically their home track there in Lincoln, and as big an organization as they are, I mean, they're big into IMCA, they're big into WISSOTA, they're big into most racetracks they're not big into, but we are very, very healthy with Speedway Motors there in Lincoln. And Speedy Bill, he was a guy that invented and done a lot of things here in Nebraska.
And that's something I may be speaking a little bit out of turn. Maybe it's something that still has to get secured. But typically, Speedway Motors gives every registered driver a $50 gift card to Speedway Motors. And that's just another way of offsetting the cost of coming out and racing. And $50 when you're building a race car is not going to do much, but that helps.
Yes, it sure does.
Well, they also do the giveaways up in the stands for the fans when you walk in.
Yep. They do a lot. They do a whole lot for that race. I mean, they are. It's basically their race.
Yeah.
It's basically for their dad, and I let them pretty much tell me what they want to do. We have to put up some purse to help them, and they take care of everything else. I mean, making sure the back gates, making sure them guys with the race cars can afford to come back the next week.
Now that's Friday, August 28th, once again, the Speedy Bill Smith Memorial. Now the season begins to wind down, and it winds down pretty quickly. You go from the peak of the Silver Dollar Nationals, 3 weeks in August, and then you've got 1 weekend in September. 2 weekends in September, All-Star Championship Sunday for all the classes except for stock car, hobby stocks, and you're going to add the mod lights. I was really impressed with these mod lights last year. Take a modified, cut it in half, and then I think it's a 550cc engine.
They put a motorcycle. I think you can run 1,000 cc. I think. I don't think they got a rule that I know
get up
of.
and move.
1,200.
Is it 1,200? Yeah. Okay. I know it's a pretty good size little, but them guys move.
They do.
I mean, and they race.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out there. They're running 3 and 4 abreast. I think last year we had 27 or 29 of them, if I remember right. And they told us if we'd done that again this year on that weekend, on Labor Day weekend, they said, we'll be back and we'll try to get more people for you because that's part of the whole program. And, it was a good race last year.
Come back the following weekend. It's the Midwest Fall Brawl featuring the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series Championship Night. You're going to have ASCS and Nebraska 360 Sprint Cars plus the Good Old Time Racing Association. Malvern Bank, obviously, that's going to be a big race for them with their championship wrapping up. ASCS, first time they're going to return in a few years, co-sanctioned with the Nebraska 360 Sprint Cars. So you're going to have all your regular Nebraska 360 guys, plus you're going to add on some bigger ASCS guys, probably going to get Brian Brown in there.
I don't know who will be there. I don't know who's following ASCS that much this year, but it was something we wanted to try to bring them back. They haven't been here for a couple years. And there we have to thank Casey's, because I couldn't afford to put them 2 classes together if it wasn't for Casey's.
Yeah.
They love everybody loves their pizza, and we love them to be part of our.
You ever had their breakfast pizza?
Yes,
that is my favorite snack on the road.
But they do a great job for us, and I want to thank them for keeping us going with this Midwest Fall Brawl and putting them classes together.
And the Good Old Time Racing Association, as tradition, joins that bill, and that's a lot of fun to watch. And those guys, it's kind of a delicate balance for them because they don't want to push the car too hard to where they hop the cushion and wreck the car or wreck somebody else, because that's not easy to replace those cars and to get them back up on the road. But when they sniff that lead, when they're sitting in second or third and they've got an opportunity, you'll watch them competitive haggles come out, and all of a sudden they get up on the wheel, and that's really fun to watch those top 3.
Everybody says they know who was going to win before the race starts. I think they might have thought who was going to win before the race started, but I think by the end of the race, you don't know who's going to win.
We wrap up the season October 9th and 10th with the Speedway Motors Cornhusker Classic. All the classes except for Super Late Models will be a part of this race. When you talk about races like the Charlie Clark Memorial that pays very well, has a cool trophy, you talk about the Silver Dollar Nationals that pays great with a cool trophy, the I-80 Dirk Classic. This is a race that guys want to end 2020 and say, I won at the Cornhusker Classic. It's not about the trophy. It's not about the money. It's about the bragging rights.
I've still got the $2 bills I won. The last time I won the Cornhusker Classic, I'm going to tell you it was 12 years ago or something. I don't even remember right now. 10, 12 years ago, somewhere in that area. And I've still got the $2 bills, and I wrote on them Cornhusker Classic, and I've been saving them just because. I don't know why. I own the racetrack. It shouldn't be that big of a deal to me. But, you keep talking about trophies, and if you ever wanted to see a trophy, Dan, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but for that Speedway Motors Speedy Bill Smith Memorial, they make the trophy down there in their machine shop, and that thing is one gorgeous trophy. I wished I had one of that. I wished I had
Any
one
chance
of
you're coming out of retirement?
No, I'm not going to come out of retirement to even try, but, that is a gorgeous trophy. We do, after you say this so many times, we do try to put on some really different trophies.
I-80Speedway.com for more tickets and information. You can always get the full schedule on there. Once again, it's tentative, but follow on Facebook for any announcements. Joe Kosiski of I-80 Speedway, once again, thanks always for coming on the show. I-80Speedway.com. Like them on Facebook, follow them there. Get your tickets in advance when they get on sale. Joe, always do love having you on the show. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the front stretch.
As summer winds wind down, those chilly nights at the racetrack are just around the turn. Stay warm while looking good, cheering on your favorite driver with Carhartt from Red Oak Fabrication. Since 1889, Carhartt has proven their mettle from the trenches of World War I to the toughest job sites today. Browse the large selection at the Red Oak Fabrication's Carhartt store and get $5 off pants until September 29th. RedOakFabrication.com/Carhartt or at the corner of North 3rd and East Grimes in Red Oak.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back into the front stretch. Just about ready to wrap this baby up. Turn 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Well, I think it's getting a little bit closer to the Chili Bowl Nationals, and obviously that's going to be going on next week. Not this coming week, but the week after. And we would always, sometimes we go down there to Quaker Steak and Lube and get the TV on get the big screen going. But I think I'm a little bit too busy this year. Just don't have enough time to do it. And I'm definitely afraid that we're going to have another thing that happened like it did last year, where it was a great race, especially coming down the last 2 laps, and Christopher Bell was running Kyle Larson down, eventually passed him. But the problem is that Quaker State closes at 11 o'clock on Saturday nights, and that race didn't get over with till, I want to say, 12:30.
Yeah, I was going to say I know it was after 12. I don't know how far after, but it was after.
I definitely pulled a lot of strings to stay open, and I appreciate everybody that stayed with us to watch that race, to continue to drink and generate revenue for Quaker State to make it worth their while. But eventually the manager was like, hey, I have a cleaning crew coming in at 1 o'clock. You guys have to be out by then. And I honestly couldn't tell him whether or not the race was going to be over with. So that's a long way of saying we're probably not going to do the Chili Bowl viewing party, but I will make arrangements and have the big screen on. So that way, if you want to go down, ask to be in the Brickyard, they'll have it on the big screens. That way you can watch it. And the nice thing about Saturday nights at Quaker State is usually not that busy, especially about the time this is going to get kicked off, which is about 7 o'clock. I think our time, maybe 8 o'clock. Usually it's kind of dying off by then, so it's easy to get a table. You get some pretty good service that night. But I don't think we're going to do an official viewing party, because I hate to require them to stay open, and that's kind of what I felt like I did last year. Well, earlier this year.
Well, we could always just go ahead and open up the man cave in your basement and stream it over there.
My man cave is still torn apart from all the presents or the prizes we sent out for the Pick'ems contest. But all the viewing for the Chili Bowl Nationals is on MAV TV. I believe Racing Boys Network is going to have some coverage also, but we'll try to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. I did want to talk briefly about the local drivers, because there is a large contingent of local drivers that go down there. There's an even larger contingent of local fans that go down there and enjoy the weekend and enjoy the festivities, a bowl o' chili, as there is actually chili for sale at the Chili Bowl Nationals. But,
well, they damn well better be.
Yeah, you would think so. Cody Ledger, who has been down there several times in the 35L, will be down once again this year. Tad Holloman is going down. Don Stroud Jr., Josh Most, who we've had on the show talking about his ride at Chili Bowl, had a really good run last year, too.
Yeah, he was having a good run. Old Justin Allgaier car, if I'm not correct.
I believe you are correct. I believe he bought that from Justin's dad, right?
Right, correct. I think that's where that one come from. But yeah, I mean, as we found out before, and with some of the other people we've had on the show, that the draw is just so huge when you're down there with 300 to 400 entries. Where you draw to run your heat race is just huge. You draw in the top 4, you got a pretty good chance to win. You draw 8th or 9th in a heat, and let's say G feature, and I think they end up with about an M or an N feature.
Yeah, I thought they were double letter features, honestly, but I can't remember what Stan told me.
Well, they always they have 2 of each. They have 2 B's, 2 C, only 1 A.
Right.
But 2 B's, 2 C's, 2 whatever. But yeah, they get down to like an M or an N or an L or somewhere down there, and so you end up having to go a long ways. And if you're in an L feature, even if you win it, the odds of you getting anywhere close to the A feature are still pretty ridiculous. You might advance 2 or 3 spot. You might get up to an H feature, maybe even a G.
You're going to go through several sets of tires if you get up into the C, B. I mean, if you make it into the A, that'd be...
Well, if you're out there, even if you start on the pole in the D, and you win it, you're going to tag the back of one of the C's, and you're going to have at least a new right rear on, maybe a new both right rears, but definitely a right rear. And if you somehow make it through the field and moving up to the B, you're going to have another set of tires on the back. Yeah. So
that's a tall order, and so that's where it puts even more stress on your qualifying races. You've got to have good qualifying races. You've got to have a good draw. As of December 29th, there was 328 total entries for the Chili Bowl. Marks the 6th straight year that the Chili Bowl Nationals will have over 300 entries. With a couple of weeks to go, I bet you're pretty close to that 400 total entries. It'll be pretty packed.
And if you have a few that for whatever circumstance don't make the show, you'll have 8 or 10 out of this 300 that for some reason don't end up there. They end up with a travel glitch. Somebody gets sick. Hey, there's a million things.
We see it at the Race Saver Nationals at Eagle quite a bit, where there's 118 entries, but only about 105, 108 make it because they blew their engine on the last night, or whatever. They get pre-registered because it's such a big event. And they want to make sure they get registered for it. They want to pay for I think the registration might actually be free up until a certain point, so they want to take advantage of that. And then just circumstance pops up, and we're not able to make it, so scratch us off the list. But yeah, there's still going to be a substantial amount. I mean, just imagine getting down there and watching that many cars qualify over a couple of days. I mean, that's getting your penny's worth.
Well, yeah, and that's why they sell the tickets. They don't sell a pass for the 5 days. They sell individual tickets for every day. And I've never checked on the prices, but I'm going to guess they're probably $30 to $40 a day. But you are seeing a ton of racing. You put that down to pennies per lap. You know?
Oh my God. And just a great experience. I mean, it's. And the names of the names. I mean, the number of people, the big-time names that go down there. You talk about Tony Stewart, that he loves going down there and just being involved every year. I think he actually helps with track maintenance.
Well, he'd been doing track maintenance, but here in the next year or two, didn't he buy like a 10-year contract for the rights or something?
I'd heard some rumor that about 3 or 4 years ago, he purchased the Chili Bowl Nationals with a ownership takeover over a 5-year period, but I haven't heard anything since then. I need to dig into that just a little bit more. So I just heard that as another one of those rumors that kind of floats around. Tony's rumored to be buying everything in dirt racing, but everything he's buying is working well for him.
Well,
so
his name adds credibility.
Right.
Let's face it.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
the fact. Jeff Gordon could be doing it. Now Jimmy Johnson, not being a dirt guy, might not have quite as much as effect. But
Right.
Carl Edwards could buy this stuff. Any of these dirt guys that have gone up to Kyle Larson. Any of them like that have that name recognition, it's going to be a good thing if they get involved in it. So if Tony buys every dirt sanction that's out there, it will be a good thing.
Absolutely. Continuing on the list of the drivers locally that are going to be involved in the Chili Bowl Nationals, Jake Neal's going down, Blaine Peterson, and Jake Bubach, who has been one of the hottest drivers in 2019. Kid just won everything, and he didn't just win everything in his cars. He sat down on, I think, 4 different rides and won in them. Different classes, different engine sizes, different types of chats. He's
pretty much all
absolutely on
sprint
fire.
car stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
But it was 305s, 360s. I don't know if he did any Wing 410 stuff or not, but the 305s and 360s, again, in several different cars, he was taking checkered flags.
I want to say a big thank you to everybody that came on the show today, being Joe Kosiski and of course, Dirk, to kick off our 2020 season of shows. We do appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be back again next weekend. Nick Dice of Tuxedo Raceway Park will join us to talk about how their 2019 went, and they've got some big announcements coming for 2020. So that'll be all coming up next weekend. Plus, we'll hit the NASCAR news and notes and get you one more recap. Maybe we'll get Stan Caesar in here to talk about the Chili Bowl Nationals, because I don't know if you noticed, but that guy seems to know quite a bit about dirt racing and sprint car racing in particular. So we'll work on that for next weekend's show. We appreciate everybody coming in and listening to today's Front Stretch right here on AM 590, presented by Joe's Karting.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around their professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.